My cousin Sarah was enthusiastic about testing out all my boyfriends for me. Despite my constant refusals, she enjoyed it immensely. Once she hooked them, she dumped them, and then announced to everyone in the family group chat that my boyfriend wasn't good enough. When she tried the same trick again, she didn't know it was a trap I'd specifically set for her. She had no choice but to walk into it. My cousin Sarah had been divorced for 3 years, and she was still living it up, getting a high alimony/support payment from her ex-husband every month. One day she'd be dating a male model, the next she'd be keeping a younger guy. She was busy having the time of her life. Recently, she had a new target, my boyfriend of 6 months, David. I wasn't surprised that David was discovered by her so quickly. My mom came to my rented place to get something that day and happened to run into him. My mom's biggest flaw in life is that she loves to compare, commonly known as jealousy/envy. My cousin Sarah married well and still had endless alimony/support after her divorce, plus my Aunt Carol never missed an opportunity to show off in front of her. Getting me to marry a man with even better prospects than my former cousin-in-law had become her motto. My lack of progress had become her biggest worry. I met David in a bar. I spotted him in the crowd right away and spent over 6 months finally managing to get him. He was younger than my former cousin-in-law, handsomer, and richer. This was right up my mom's alley, wasn't it? She immediately announced it widely in the family group chat and even sent cash gifts/money to celebrate, implying I would be getting married soon. I saw it and felt helpless. I sent a waving hand emoji in the chat saying, "It's nothing too serious, folks/everyone, no need to pay too much attention." My mom immediately posted a photo in the chat in response, "Looking like that, carrying a bag like that, and you're not serious?" My cousin Sarah popped up, "Wow. Where did our Emily find such an amazing catch? Want your cousin to test him out for you?" I didn't say anything, but I knew that whether I liked it or not, she would try anyway. This time, however, I had already made my preparations. On the first day of our relationship, I told David that I had a very beautiful and sophisticated cousin who really liked adding my boyfriends on social media, and if she sent a request, he absolutely shouldn't accept it. David joked, "Are you afraid I'll fall in love with her?" I smiled lightly and said, "I'm afraid you'll get seduced and die a terrible death." That's how every one of my boyfriends ended up, anyway. He held me in his arms and comforted me for a long time, "Then I definitely won't. I'll only marry Emily in this life." With my warning, when my cousin Sarah first tried to add him, he kept refusing. He even complained to me several times, "Your cousin Sarah is really persistent. She's used over 10 different social media accounts to add me." I kissed his cheek as praise, "Then you have to hold firm. You can't give in just because she's playing games." He didn't stop his fingers as he rejected another small account's request, then turned back to me and said, "My parents want to have dinner with you. They said we've been dating for 6 months, and you still haven't shown your face. They've heard me talk about how much I like you." I paused, then stroked his head and said, "Let's wait a bit longer. I'm a bit busy right now. After this quarter is over, I'll treat your parents to dinner." "You don't need to treat them. As long as you show up, my parents will be overjoyed. We can eat at my family's hotel then." Perhaps because she couldn't add David on social media, my cousin became a bit impatient. She suggested coming to stay at my rented place for a while. Of course, I wouldn't agree, but my mom was eager to show off the new apartment David had gotten for me and couldn't wait to give her the address. So, when I got home from work, David and Sarah were sitting on the sofa, one on each side, scrolling on their phones. David pulled me into the room and said impatiently, "I really didn't pay any attention to her. Why did she come over?" I said casually, "My mom probably gave her the address. That's how she is. Just don't pay attention to her." He swore to the heavens, but I felt a little uneasy inside, my mind replaying how they had been sitting on the sofa just now. David wouldn't do that, would he? I worked so hard to get him for 6 months, he wouldn't be taken in just one night, would he? I was still a bit anxious, partly due to my own lack of confidence, and partly unsure how long David would hold out. David didn't stay the night. He had an apartment in the building next door and went back there. Early the next morning, he came over to bring me breakfast. There were 7 or 8 different specialty pastries/breakfast items spread out on the table. Sarah saw them and smiled a little smugly. David, are you bringing so much because you knew I was here today? Wow, I really love the specialty pastry place. Too bad they never do delivery. Did you go pick it up early this morning? David looked up at her. No, I forgot you were here. I actually bought 2 fewer things today. Mostly Emily doesn't have a great appetite in the morning, so I bought more so she could pick and choose. Sarah said a long "oh," but her hands kept fiddling with her freshly done nails/manicure. This was her state when she was thinking. I thought that if she had only been a little interested in David before, now she was determined to get him. I unconsciously tightened my grip on David's hand. Perhaps feeling the pain, David looked at me involuntarily. I quickly apologized to him and left the table. When I got home from work that evening, they were again sitting on either side of the sofa. When I came in, David got up to greet me. He asked me in a low voice, "Doesn't your cousin Sarah have a job? Why is she here every day? And doesn't she have her own place? What's the deal with her staying here all the time?" I looked up at him and said, "If you add her social media, maybe she'll back off." His expression stiffened. After a moment, he said, "I just added her. She said she'll go home tomorrow if I add her." I just said "oh" and went into the room. David followed me in, put his arm around me, and asked if I was angry. "I just don't want to see her every day. I can just mute her after adding her, you know? See, I've already set her to do not disturb." He said this while taking out his phone and showing it to me, trying to prove his innocence. I didn't say anything. My disappointment might have been a bit obvious. David held my hand and tried to comfort me for a long time. At the restaurant during dinner, he kept trying to get me to talk and kept putting food on my plate. Sarah saw this and just smiled. "Mr. David is so considerate." David ignored her. He just talked to me about setting up stores for a direct-to-consumer brand he was working on. Sarah heard this and deliberately made a noise at the dinner table. When we both looked at her, she smiled and said, "Oh dear, you're talking about something I'm good at. I'm a little excited." She said to David, who didn't understand, "My ex-husband has a direct-to-consumer brand that's doing quite well. He has a lot of channels he can share with me. For Emily's sake, I can help you." After saying this, she even gave a detailed introduction of that brand. I could see David was tempted. He looked at me, then at Sarah, with a bit of difficulty, and asked, "Since it's your ex-husband, won't it be inconvenient?" "What's inconvenient about that? A night together could sort it all out. Just wait for my news." This time, David didn't refuse. I knew his message notifications were about to be unmuted. Sure enough, after he came into the room, he said to me, "Your cousin Sarah is very decent and straightforward." I just looked up at him, my eyes already half red. He immediately came over to comfort me. I just said that casually. Would I be interested in a woman who is still entangled with her ex? Sarah left my apartment the next day. David also didn't come back for several days. He said he was visiting sites in another city because several direct-to-consumer stores were opening at once. A few times when we video chatted, I saw Sarah behind him. He quickly explained, "My cousin Sarah called to ask about the progress. She heard I was in the neighboring city and decided to come along. This project is really thanks to her help. It saved a lot of trouble. Even my dad praised me." The life of a son of a prominent businessman/from a wealthy family is spent yearning to surpass their parents. David was no exception. His father and grandfather were both very successful entrepreneurs. He was actually quite capable himself, but always overshadowed by his father's and grandfather's reputations. He always wanted to prove himself. This time, the direct-to-consumer stores were set up in several cities at once, quickly and in good locations. Even his father and grandfather unanimously praised him for doing a great job with this. David transferred $50,000 USD equivalent to me, saying it was for my cousin Sarah to get a new bag from me. "I know she helped me because of you. It's better for you to give it to her. I have that much sense." After saying this, he added, "Pick one Sarah likes. If it's not enough, I'll send you more. I took out my phone and called my cousin. As soon as it connected, a slightly deep male voice said, "Emily? Why is your boyfriend sending something to Sarah?" Oh no, my cousin Sarah and my former cousin-in-law Robert's contact names only differed by one character. I actually called Robert. Robert, my cousin Sarah, and I all went to the same school. Robert was 1 year ahead of us. We'd see each other during club activities. I only praised Robert once, saying he was very considerate. The very next day, my cousin Sarah started pursuing him publicly. They say it's easy for a woman to chase a man. 2 weeks later, they were together. After breaking up and getting back together several times, they got married right after graduation. After 3 years of marriage, they divorced. To avoid any misunderstanding from Robert, my cousin Sarah's benefactor/lifeline, who still sends her monthly alimony/support, I quickly explained, no, she helped my boyfriend with a big favor. But this is also thanks to you, Robert. My boyfriend's snack brand direct-to-consumer stores were completely dependent on your resources this time. I thought she was getting ambitious and planning to open her own business. So it turns out it's your boyfriend, huh? She's more attentive to him than to me. Before I could reply, he said again, "Okay, I know. I'll buy the bag for her. You keep the money yourself." I returned the money to David and told him Robert said he didn't need it. He was a little confused. Isn't he her ex-husband? Why is he meddling so much? He's her benefactor/lifeline. Otherwise, where do you think my cousin Sarah gets all her designer stuff and her high spending power? David's expression was a little awkward. Seeing me look at him, he added, "Right." That evening, Sarah came over to my place again. She had a little to drink, her face flushed, sitting on the sofa arguing with me. Her mind was clear, her thoughts sharp, her logic impeccable. She tore into me from every angle, and finally, pointing at David, she said to me, "With you? You think you can hook a rich guy too? I'm telling you, don't dream about it, Emily, you'll never be able to live a life like mine. Are you going to complain to Robert about me stealing your boyfriend so he cuts off my alimony/support? Don't you believe I could find a new one tomorrow?" A glint appeared in David's eyes when he heard that. I suddenly felt completely bored. I left them both in the living room and went back to my room. After this, David started working overtime and traveling even more frequently. Even when I suggested that I wasn't busy anymore and could have dinner with his parents, he gently refused, saying it wasn't the right time yet. At this point, I actually understood. Sarah had succeeded again. She had succeeded again. I actually felt quite pathetic for myself. Sarah was a pampered princess, growing up cherished by her parents. She was used to getting whatever she wanted since childhood, she was beautiful, and she came from a good family. And me? I was a little girl who grew up lacking love with a controlling mother. It seemed like whenever Sarah and I were together, it was obvious who would get the attention/love. Because love always flows towards those who don't lack it, Sarah never lacked princes and knights rushing to her defense. But just because of this, couldn't I get out of her shadow? Would I be controlled by her desires my whole life? I stopped contacting David, but his updates would always reach me through Sarah. Sarah would post about what she was doing recently in the family group chat, like where she was visiting markets or doing research. Everyone praised her, saying how capable she was, that she had resources and could handle hardship. You could occasionally see glimpses of David in the photos. My mom quietly messaged me privately, asking what was going on with David. How did Sarah get involved with him again? Isn't that what you wanted? You were so impatient to announce I was dating, and then you gave her my address. Anyone would think you specifically sent her to steal him away. My mom was so angry she sent over 10 60-second voice messages. With a wave of my hand, I deleted them all. The war of the century was about to start. Who had the energy to listen to her rant? Even though Sarah kept messaging for days, both in private messages and by tagging me in the group chat, I didn't reply. She finally lost her patience. I shared photos on social media of myself attending a conference in City A, and she showed up right after. When she accidentally ran into me by the lake, Feigning surprise, she said, "Emily, what are you doing here? I posted it on social media, didn't you see?" "Oh, I'm so swamped, you wouldn't believe it. David's project has me completely tied up. He even said he's going to give me some shares. By the way, David is coming tonight too, did he tell you? Shall we have dinner together?" "No need, I'm still quite busy. Maybe another time." My repeated retreat seemed to fuel Sarah's enjoyment. She thought I must care more about David than any previous boyfriend. After all, David was the highest caliber person I could attract. She spared no effort to drag David around and flaunt him in front of me. The conference lasted 3 days, and she and David were also at the venue for 3 days. I ran into them several times. David seemed surprised to see me there and wanted to come over and talk, but Sarah always pulled him away. Shortly after they left, he sent me a message explaining, "My cousin Sarah and I are on a business trip. I forgot to tell you. This project is almost finished. When we get back, I'll make it up to you properly and explain everything." I didn't reply. Mostly, I was starting to feel a bit contempt for him. If he had just been upfront and admitted it, I would have respected him more. On the last day of the conference, I saw that the area by the lake was crowded with people, so I took a walk along the shore. I happened to see David and Sarah kissing behind a statue. I turned to run away and bumped into someone who looked a little familiar. It was my former cousin-in-law, Robert. He focused, squinting at the two people kissing in front of us for a moment, then turned his head and asked me, "Is that your boyfriend? Aren't you going to say hello?" I quickly shook my head. "No, I don't want to seem like a crazy woman." I turned back to walk, and Robert walked on my right side. I asked him, "Why didn't you go up to them just now? We're divorced, so we each do our own thing. I don't really want to get involved in her business." "Yeah, it doesn't look like either of you are trying to get back together." Robert was no stranger to the entertainment headlines these past 2 years, dating supermodels and actresses. He never settled down. "Oh, by the way, Sarah said she apparently has shares in the project she's doing with my boyfriend. Make sure you watch out for her, okay? Any losses come out of your pocket." Robert paused. "Invested shares? How much did she invest?" "I'm not sure, I didn't ask about it specifically. But my boyfriend seems to have invested quite a bit in it. Certainly several million, I'd guess. But you probably don't care, since you have money." I looked up at Robert sincerely and said, "I envy how my cousin Sarah seems to be loved no matter what. Even after divorce. Next to her, I feel like an ugly duckling, ugly and insecure." Robert said seriously, "On the contrary, I think your cousin Sarah is insecure around you. That's why she's afraid you have things she doesn't. That's why she wants to snatch things away. It's very childish, like a child grabbing a toy." Tears suddenly streamed down my face. I laughed self-deprecatingly. Even constantly stealing other people's boyfriends is just considered childish, just kids squabbling. Robert knew he had said the wrong thing and was silent for a long time. I used all my strength and stomped hard on his foot. "I hate all of you people." Looking at his stunned face, I continued, "Why do people get to do whatever they want just because they're good-looking and come from a good family? Why can some people play with others' feelings so casually?" He forced a smile. "Actually, even with money, there are many things you can't do, and many people you can't love. You just don't understand yet." After a while, he said, "I'm sorry, let me apologize to you on Sarah's behalf." "What do you want? Let me get you something?" Seeing that I didn't speak, he tentatively said, "How about I get you a bag? Sarah always cheers up when I get her a bag when she's upset." "I don't want a bag." This was Sarah's doing. It's not over until she's punished. Stop her alimony/support for another month. Don't tell her when it will resume either. Let her worry for a while. Just give me 1 more month, and I can definitely back Sarah into a corner." Robert chuckled. "Do I seem that foolish to you? You don't have to tell me. I wouldn't have paid anyway. Spending my money to mess around with men is one thing. It's not like I'm sitting idle either, but trying to transfer my assets to run off with another man is just a bit too much. That doesn't count. You can still ask me for one more thing." After talking with Robert that day, he sent me a photo, a picture of Sarah and David kissing that day, and subsequent photos of them messing around at the hotel. This was a bonus gift from Robert. He said the real thank you gift would wait until I had thought about it. Because after my reminder, he checked Sarah's accounts and discovered she had been secretly taking cash advances on his credit card, taking out around 50 million yuan, which amounted to tens of millions of dollars over the 3 years. This far exceeded the alimony/support they had agreed upon during their divorce. With this, Sarah lost her biggest backer/support. Of course, this wasn't over yet. Her real bad luck would begin when she tried to land on her next tree. She just didn't know it yet. When Robert stopped her alimony/support payments and demanded repayment for some of the losses, Sarah started to panic. Although my Aunt Carol's family had decent financial conditions, they were only moderately well off. But over the years, with my cousin's constant demands, everyone in the family had gotten used to bigger appetites. When she was short on cash, it happened to be Thanksgiving. In previous Thanksgivings, she would buy a lot of things and send them everywhere, as if that was the only way to outshine the younger generation/relatives and make her the undisputed star. This year, it was already late in the evening, and she hadn't shown any signs. Relatives in the family group chat were already starting to say unpleasant things. Around midnight, she finally posted in the chat, "I'm out of town, I'll make up for the holiday gifts in a couple of days." Whether she was out of town or not, I didn't know. David was at my door. When he came in, he started with a string of apologies, saying he had been too busy and neglected me, and asked why I wasn't talking to him. I stared at him for a long time. I still felt like I barely knew this person, even after dating for half a year. He seemed uncomfortable with me staring at him. After a while, he perhaps realized I already knew something. He asked if he had no chance left. I took out my phone and showed him the photos. He was speechless. "Actually, you don't love me at all. Why are you still coming to find me? We could have just broken up right then and there." He said, "Maybe I felt a little regret/wasn't ready to give up. I think I did like you, but I couldn't seem to resist Sarah's attraction." "So you're trying to play both of us sisters at once?" That didn't provoke him. He just smiled and didn't say anything. "You always said you liked that I was obedient, but my cousin Sarah doesn't seem to fit your criteria for a partner, does she? Maybe doing things that are challenging is more rewarding." After everything was laid out, he became much more candid. "Maybe it's just an inherent male flaw. The way you emphasized so much that I shouldn't add her on social media immediately piqued my curiosity. Later, I actually didn't have to add her, but I did anyway. Of course, I said that specifically to make you add her faster. Since we dated for a little while, don't say I didn't warn you. Any boyfriend my cousin Sarah stole from me never lasted more than a week. She said once she got them, she lost interest. The only person she seemed to truly care about was my former cousin-in-law Robert. After all, he spent a lot of real money on her." David's brow furrowed slightly. He stepped forward and tightly gripped my hand. "Emily, I don't know why, but you always give me the feeling that you're trying to push me towards your cousin Sarah." My heart skipped a beat, but I didn't show it. "Then you're probably mistaken. Does anyone actually want to be cheated on? Do you know how many people in my family are laughing at me every day? My mom even blocked me on social media because of you." He stared at me for a long time before releasing my hand and saying, "You'd better not show your hand. Don't make me think you're interesting." David started spending a lot of money on Sarah. Sarah really enjoyed it. She messaged me privately, telling me how great David was. She asked why I hadn't held on to him. "If you hadn't exposed the truth, maybe I would have gotten bored and given him back to you. You probably won't find anyone that good again, right?" I replied, "You can have him. It's not like I liked him that much anyway. Stolen so many of your boyfriends, and this time I found out you can be quite stubborn. Do you really need me to tell you which one of us is more stubborn?" After sending that message, I didn't respond to her anymore, letting her rant in private messages and the group chat. Anyway, her emotions were never stable for all these years. I couldn't understand why a woman who had everything she wanted was so volatile. Actually, Sarah and I had a great relationship when we were little. We were the only two girls among the close relatives in our family, and we spent all day together, reading comics, doing crafts, binge-watching shows. We were so happy. Not only did we have similar tastes in food, our aesthetics were also very similar, and we lived harmoniously for many years. The turning point came the year my Aunt Carol remarried. My Aunt Carol remarried very well. My aunt's husband, Mr. Thompson, was a businessman, and their family owned over 10 properties. He only had one son, 2 years older than my cousin Sarah and I. He was very handsome and refined, and very polite. Everyone in the family liked him, including us sisters. Sarah might not have had any intentions at first, because she was constantly talking about him in that way, showing off that she had a perfect brother Michael in front of me. And at that time, I was developing a first crush/puppy love. I was infatuated with this new cousin Michael. I wrote these overflowing emotions in my diary. My mom discovered this diary. She took pictures and posted them in the family group chat, frantically tagging my Aunt Carol and her husband, Mr. Thompson, saying they hadn't kept their son in line. My cousin Sarah, meanwhile, cursed me in the chat, calling me shameless and accusing me of seducing her brother. The final outcome was that my Aunt Carol and her husband, Mr. Thompson, conferred and sent Michael abroad. He didn't come back for many years. Sarah also unilaterally cut ties with me. The after effect was that I never had a normal relationship again. Sarah said this was her punishment for me wanting her brother. From 17 to 29, a full 12 years, I lived in her shadow, simply because I was infatuated with her non-biological brother. It sounds both crazy and ridiculous. I even desperately apologized to her and tried to find Michael, wanting to correct this ridiculous mistake, but neither attempt succeeded. I could choose not to date, but Sarah couldn't seem to stand it if I praised any man. Any small thing would trigger her terrible competitiveness. She made my life miserable. I saw a therapist for 5 years because of this, but it didn't improve much. Later, the therapist suggested I try environment detachment therapy. Simply put, it meant living in a different environment to get myself out of the current situation. I did. But my mom kept tricking me into coming back. The debt I owed her for raising me alone seemed to become a thread constantly pulling me back, making me compromise through repeated pain. Lately, I had even started self-harming. The therapist said she wanted to talk to my mom. My mom refused. Her exact words were, "Then let her die." I had such a hard time raising her, and I didn't die. She's acting like it's the end of the world over a boyfriend. I gave up on asking my mom for help. I thought if I wanted to live, I had to save myself. David gave Sarah an island. The whole family was shocked by his lavish gesture. Only I gave a cold laugh. My mom cursed at me, "When you were with him, I never saw him give you an island. Even your lousy apartment is rented." My sarcastic words were on the tip of my tongue, but I didn't say them. Let her enjoy it for a while. From the day she got to the island, Sarah kept updating her social media and mentioning and tagging me in the group chat and private messages. Gradually the number decreased. By the 10th day, there was almost no news at all. Relatives in the group chat were still grumbling, asking if she was having too much fun to remember us. Even my Aunt Carol came to ask me if I had heard from my cousin Sarah. "She's traveling with her boyfriend, and you're asking me? Isn't that your ex-boyfriend? Why don't you call and ask?" "Oh, so you did know he was my ex? I thought you were pretending not to know all these years." I don't have his contact information. Usually, when someone cheats, I just delete them. Who keeps trash in their contact list? I'm not a garbage dump. By the 15th day, my cousin Sarah had news again. She came back home with a lot of local specialties from the island. My Aunt Carol quickly arranged for everyone to go to her place to see the island owner, sarcastically. I didn't want to go at first, but my mom dragged me there, saying she wanted to motivate me so I could achieve financial freedom like my cousin Sarah as soon as possible. That way, her mission would be accomplished. Although I didn't know who had assigned her this main quest, I was destined to fail. But watching the show/drama, a side quest like that, I could manage. When I arrived at my cousin Sarah's place, she was sitting in the center, surrounded by admirers, letting my Aunt Carol pass around the photos she'd taken of the island on her phone. She was wearing heavy makeup. She was confident in her beauty and usually wouldn't wear so much makeup, especially at home. Despite this, I could still see her exhaustion and weariness. The makeup couldn't hide it at all. My mom also spoke up. "I think Sarah looks quite tired. Maybe we should leave and let the child rest." My Aunt Carol jumped up immediately. "You're probably jealous that our Sarah has an island, aren't you? Your Emily couldn't get tired even if she wanted to." The two almost got into a physical fight, but in the end, they sat together harmoniously, eating the local products brought back from the island. I was simply amazed by these two sisters. While I was watching the show/drama, Sarah walked behind me and asked me quietly, "Emily, I keep feeling like you're really pleased with yourself. Did you know all along?" I looked up in surprise and asked, "Know what? I didn't even want to come today. Who here isn't laughing at me for losing an island?" Sarah gave me a fierce glare and walked away. I stared at her back for a long time. After she turned the corner and I saw her slightly unnatural walking posture, I looked away. It seemed the show had begun. I wondered if Sarah needed more audience members. Later that day, my cousin didn't appear again. My Aunt Carol said with an awkward expression that Sarah wasn't feeling well from the travel/feeling sick. After giving each family some local products, the dinner party broke up. My mom kept talking next to me. Maybe Sarah wasn't feeling well from the travel/feeling sick. She looked really unwell today. My Aunt Carol just likes to show off. She insisted on calling everyone over as soon as she got back. Would she die if she didn't show off? I looked at her and said, "That's why they say you two are real sisters, huh? You have to blab about everything in the chat too, don't you? I want to ask you, would you die if you didn't show off?" Before she could explode, I got into a taxi and drove away. About a month later, Sarah went to the island again. When she came back this time, she didn't show up at all, claiming she was tired from playing and got sick. Thanks to my mom's enthusiastic promotion, relatives started wondering if the island really had bad vibes. Some busybody relatives started saying, maybe it was a backlash for stealing my boyfriends? I just smiled and ignored it. The wait for that backlash was taking a bit too long. My Aunt Carol called and said Sarah wanted to see me. I was busy with a project I was working on, so I didn't go. By the time I thought about making time to go, I was grabbed by Sarah, who had finished recuperating. Yes, grabbed. Because she imitated David's tone and texted my mom, saying he still thought I was great and wanted to get back together. My mom gave her my new address again and even eagerly volunteered several passwords I had used. So I was taken away in a car by my cousin Sarah and two burly guys, still in my pajamas. She looked even more haggard than the last time I saw her. Under her big eyes were deep bags. Looking closely, the fine lines around her eyes were almost impossible to hide. She asked me the same question again. "Did you know all along?" I gave her the same answer. "Know what?" She laughed self-deprecatingly. "I thought I was the winner, but I didn't realize you had tricked me halfway through. You knew all along what kind of person David was, and you still dared to date him for half a year, just to lure me into action? Emily, you really went to great lengths. If you had dated him for just a few days like before and I had found out, my competitive drive wouldn't have been so strong. But you deliberately kept it a secret for so long and only let me know when you were close to getting married. In my haste, I fell into your trap. You calculated every step, didn't you? You even calculated that my mom would show off in the group chat about you finding a good boyfriend. Emily, do you hate me that much?" I looked at the situation before me and knew I couldn't get out of the car right away. It wasn't wise to anger Sarah. "Sarah, I really don't know what you're talking about. Give me a hint. Did something bad happen to you recently?" She reached out and slapped me. Still pretending? That slap seemed to use all her strength. My right cheek was burning, and it quickly swelled up. "Don't get too cocky. Do you know where I'm taking you now? We're going to the dock/pier right now." David and I agreed. "This time, you're coming to the island with me." I stayed silent. I stared out the car window. The dock/pier was getting closer. I started shaking uncontrollably. Sarah sneered. Didn't you say you didn't know? Then what are you scared of? I'm just taking you to visit my little island. At this moment, David's voice came through the car's speaker. It turned out he had been listening to our conversation the whole time. Emily, don't be scared. I'm always gentle, right? I'm waiting for you. The dock/pier was right in front of us. Sarah said, if David hadn't warned me that you might be setting me up, I would never have found out. Emily, you acted very well. Too bad, you still fell into my hands. David won't let you off either. The boat was docked at the pier. We had to walk across a long walkway to get on the boat. Looking at the boat's churning propeller, I felt a bit of despair and also a bit of unwillingness. I didn't expect to reach this point and end up trapping myself. We switched to small boats several times along He Way. Until the last transfer, because the speed was too high, one of the two burly men and Sarah got seasick. They both leaned against the cabin, feeling nauseous for a long time. I pointed at a small boat not far away and said, "Is that the one?" The person driving that speedboat was a local veteran. His driving skills were excellent. The cabin was also very clean, showing he was someone who took good care of things. Pointing at the two feeling sick, I said to the driver, "Go faster, or these two will throw up all over your boat." When the driver heard they might throw up on his boat, he quickly sped up. The two who were already nauseous actually looked like they were about to vomit. The driver quickly told them to lean their heads out of the cabin. Just as they both leaned out, I lifted both their feet and pushed them overboard, then I dove headfirst into the water and swam in the other direction. The yacht that was supposed to pick me up hadn't arrived yet, but people from it had already jumped in to save them. Amidst that chaos, I swam away unnoticed. The sea was vast, truly immense. After swimming for 15 minutes, I started to feel a little desperate. I thought even if David and Sarah didn't torture me to death, I would ultimately die out here in the sea and be eaten by sharks. I swam for over an hour. I never thought I had such a strong will to survive. My arms and legs were completely exhausted. I was only staying afloat by sheer will. Maybe I wasn't meant to die. Finally, I swam into an inshore aquaculture area and was rescued by a fisherman who was there to check on the fish fry. After reaching shore, I immediately called Robert without delay. I hoped he would fulfill the one request he had promised me. He listened, then was silent for a long time, and told me he understood. Finally, I asked him, "Can I trust you?" "Yes." I stayed in the fishing village for a month. It wasn't until David and Sarah's story hit the news that I returned, arranged by Robert. I didn't go home directly. Robert, following the principle of seeing something through to the end, helped me sell everything in my rented place and also arranged for me to get a new job at a branch company in another city. I changed all my social media and communication accounts. Robert asked when I found out David liked to throw parties. I lied. I said I found out when I was going through his things after we broke up. Actually, that wasn't true. It was during the second week of us dating. He had a phone he never let out of his sight. One time, he couldn't find it anywhere. He went to the office, feeling very agitated, to look for it. I waited for him in the car. The phone was in the gap of the car seat. When I pulled it out, the screen was full of bizarre, vulgar messages and more. They even recorded videos every time they went to control the victims and prevent them from reporting it. Later, I overheard him talking about it on the phone several times. He went there often. He would get very excited before each visit, and he would be in high spirits for a while after he came back. I had a suspicion. That was probably where they messed around. A group of wealthy young men bought a piece of land and built a few houses/cabins, and had a lively time. I acted docile, boring, and timid in front of David, so he never showed much interest in me. But I met him through my advisor/mentor. Supposedly, his father had a very good relationship with my advisor/mentor. And he was very devoted to his parents/a dutiful son. This was one of the reasons I dared to make this gamble. For the past 6 months, I often couldn't sleep at night. Even when I did fall asleep, I would be woken up by nightmares. I was truly terrified of the days I spent sleeping with the devil. So one day, I casually let my mom discover that I had a boyfriend I was very close to. Every step was going according to my plan. Every step was exactly what I wanted. Let her lose her support, let her seek new reliance, let her enjoy the pleasure of competing, let her go to hell. As for me, I was already in hell. Years of mental stress and depression, under the two burden/sources of pressure from Sarah and my mom, I had long been miserable. Sarah wrote me a letter from prison, saying she had always thought my target was David or Robert, that's why she was so furious. I heard she applied for medical parole from prison because the violent sexual abuse she experienced had essentially made it impossible for her to live like a normal woman. I almost burst out laughing when Robert brought me the letter. This woman who lives for men ridiculously thought all women in the world were like her. I showed Robert my arm covered in scars. His eyes were full of shock. You used to ask why I didn't wear short sleeves. Do you understand now? I didn't end up working at Robert's branch company later. I sold an old, run-down small apartment I had bought a long time ago and went overseas. I heard that when David and Sarah were together, they were involved in a death, so the case was still being processed legally. I heard my mom got sick, and my Aunt Carol wasn't doing well either. My Aunt Carol and she once again displayed sisterly affection. They moved in together. I was doing well too. It's easy to find work no matter where you are. I worked on weekdays and traveled on holidays. Occasionally, I would see a familiar figure and walk closer to take a look, and then walk away with a sense of loss. Until one day, someone pushed open the door of the shop where I worked. He smiled at me. I felt like the world lit up.